So as we get started with seller tools today, this is being recorded. You will get a copy of this recording. If at any time you need to find other webinars that I have conducted or that the company, our team has put together, you can always visit our YouTube channel. So it's YouTube Back at You Office. It's what you'll search for. And you can access all of our webinars here. I'm going to go ahead, drop that link in the chat box for you. And you can also always find our upcoming webinars at showtime.backatyou.com. And here's where a full list of all of our upcoming sessions are so that you can find classes that you want to watch. The last thing that I will mention is we do have a Facebook group. We would love to have you be a member of this group. This is a great place if you're looking for a specific course or you have a specific question on how to do something or what the best practice is. This is a great place for you as well. So without further ado, let's jump into the seller tools. We're going to spend about 30 to 45 minutes here today and getting you that information on, hey, last week we talked about buyer tools and what can you do with a buyer in the system. And now what happens when you have a seller? How do you manage that seller within your office account? So the first thing that I want to point out is when you've logged into your home screen, that this main dashboard is really where you want to be working for your business. You have a link to your contacts, you have a link to your listings, you have your active to-do gauge. But where we're going to begin is in that customer relations section, identifying who your seller is and starting that process of what that looks like. So we're going to actually go in and dig into, we'll dig into Sydney's contact today. So I've got my contact Sydney in here. And the first thing that you are going to want to do if you're working with your sellers is, of course, mark that contact type as a seller. This allows you to really make sure that you know that that person is categorized as a seller. From here, you can always have drip marketing campaigns going out to sellers. This is really your main way to go in and categorize your contact. Cassandra, I can make it bigger. I cannot, I don't know why it is blurry. That's something that is out of my control, but I can for sure make it bigger. Yeah, no worries. So as we're going in, we mark that person as a seller under our contact types. If you don't have contact types in here, what you'll want to do is add this edit pencil, and you can add your seller as a contact type and add that to one of your choices. So this is an editable field where you can go ahead and add contact types. As we're going through this, really the main difference in a buyer and a seller is, hey, what about that portal on my website? Sellers are not always typically searching for properties. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. But how do I get it so that, my seller can have access to their listing information within their portal? So the answer to that is you have a tab underneath each contact that is called listings. And when you click on that listings tab, you'll notice you have a button, a big green button that says add a listing. What this does is it links your contact to the listing that's coming in through that IDX feed. Remember, we are directly integrated with your MLS. And so as consumers are looking either on your website or your company website for listings, we are integrating with your MLS directly here, and we're maximizing that feed by giving you the ability to attach a listing to a contact here. I can go in, I click add a listing, and that attaches that contact to the listing. Now, there are a few other ways you can do this. So you can also go into your listings here and click on listings, and this will open up your main listings dashboard. And so your main listings dashboard will show all of your listings. And within an individual listing, you can also attach a seller here. So there's contact information. It'll show your information as the listing agent. If it's co-listed, it will show the co-listing agent. But I can also attach my seller here. When I start to type that seller name, it is going to be pulling directly from my database. So directly from my customer relations tab is where this information is populating from. If I'm working on my listing and maybe I haven't put that seller into my database yet, if you click on this little person next to that, you can actually enter in your contact's name here. So perhaps this is Ryan Brewer's listing. I'm going to give him a username and password. And I can enter in other contact information. I click save. Now that seller's been added to the contacts, but the other thing that has happened is a portal has been created. So on that screen, when I added this button, there was a portion for login information. And by adding that login information, it makes it so that your client can log in on your website. So as you're thinking about this, how you get to this portal page is you would go to your website /my portal. That's how you get to the portal on your site. Some of you may have it as a menu item. Some of you may not. You all have access to the portal. It's on your website /my portal. And they are given the ability to log in. As this is loading, I just want to bring up, hey, there's a question in the chat box that says, can you add an interested party, like a family member who is not one of the actual sellers? And really what you want to do in this, Alicia, is you're attaching the seller to the listing so that they have access within their portal to the listing. So an interested party, can you add an interested party? I don't know that that makes sense. This is where really they're going to have access to your marketing plan. They're going to have access to your the documents. It wouldn't make sense to have someone who is not a seller necessarily have access to this information. Does that make sense? Unless yeah, so, and that's a good point. So Alicia says, hey, my seller does not have access to a computer and their family member is telling them what's going on. I would consider that more of a pass-through, and I would just add that person to the listing. That's a great question. So what if there's more than one seller? At this time, within the listing itself, you can only add one seller. But within that contact, you can have 2 email addresses associated. So right now there's only a place for one. I will bring up to our product team to see if it's possible to add 2 sellers to that portal. Great questions, team. So I've added the seller here. Once I added them and I clicked save, it changed that portal on my website. So I can see in this portal here that there's listing activity. It shows a snapshot of my listing. We're going to go into these action plans, but I can see action plan items. So these are marketing plan items that I have added. I can see what's complete. I can see what's past due. I can see what's pending. And below that, I can see the analytics. So this is the coolest place in my mind, and the best part about adding your listing to the seller, attaching that contact to the listing, is they can have some analytical information here at any time. So within this individual section, we can see how many impressions the listing has had, how many views it's had. As you scroll down, you can see where are people coming from. How are people getting to this listing? Directly from my agent website, from other agents in my office's websites. How are we appearing in a search result? If you're using the showing portion of the software, you can also choose to have the showing information here. Now below this is where it's going to say, hey, are there similar properties? And this is what they are. And if there's any competition. So all of these analytical portions of what is shown here is actually set up within the listing. So I went to my listings, I went here, and I clicked on the listing. And within this reports, I have the ability to decide what that competition is. So I can see here that those similar properties and that price of $510,000 to $550 is actually based on what I put in the system. Okay, the square footage is, maybe we need to drop this to 2,500 to 3,000. All of these items are directly reflecting within the listing. So as I'm making changes in the back office to this report, it's changing in the portal. Now, what's really great about this is, hey, for your analytical clients who want all the time, real-time information, they have the ability to log in and see all of this information at any time. You also, though, can send a report. So I can set this up in this reports tab to send out every week, every 2 weeks, every 4 weeks, and click save. This is a wonderful tool for a few reasons. Reason number one, when I go to my listing appointment, so hey, Janine is thinking about selling her house. So I go to Janine's house and I say, hey Janine, super excited that you're thinking about selling your house. I want to just walk through a few things in the process before we go down the road. How many agents are you interviewing? So Janine says, hey, I'm interviewing 5 agents or 3 agents or whatever it is. I say, awesome. So we all do a lot of the same things. We're all going to give you a price range where your home can be competitively priced. We all are going to help you through the process of a contract, and we're all going to work on getting you feedback for your showings. What I want to focus on today is not what we do that's the same, but what we do that's different. And one of the things that I do that's different is I really work hard to drive traffic to my website, and my brokerage is working hard to drive traffic to the brokerage website to ensure that clients and potential clients are getting accurate information about your listing. And through driving traffic to my website, what I want you to know is I can actually send you a report either weekly, every other week, or monthly on how your listing is doing online through my site. And the greatest part about that is Agent XYZ is going to come in and they're probably going to tell you that your home's going to be listed on 17,000 million websites through their feeds. And I'm here to tell you that it doesn't matter how many websites your home is on if nobody is looking at it. And my job is to get more eyeballs on your home, on accurate information, so that your home sells faster. Janine says, oh my gosh, that's wonderful. I say, yep, and if you'd like to see an example of one of these reports, I'm more than happy to do that. If you don't have any listings and you don't have a report you can pull, ask someone else in your office, hey, can I get a copy of one of your listing reports? If you don't know who to ask in your office, go talk to your office administrator or your manager. They will be able to help you with this. As the listing agent, your information is always going to be shown in the upper right-hand corner. And this is a really good snapshot of information of what's happening. Again, this is the same information that's in the portal, and it can be automatically sent out. There is a question. Does this aggregate outside web traffic as well as mine? Not at this time, Jen. I find personally that this is a really good time to talk to my clients about the accuracy of Zillow. Hey, your listing is going to go on Zillow. I realize that's an important part. I do want you to realize, though, that Zillow is not necessarily always accurate, nor do they always update their listings effectively. And for that reason, I'm going to make sure that my marketing budget is driving people to your listing on my site, not driving people to Zillow. Because I know you, I know your home. I want people to be contacting me and the people in my brokerage so that the clients you get are real. Great question. So after the sale, I go in, I set this up, it automatically goes out. If I don't want it to go automatically, no big deal. I can manually go in and send this report. I can click on that send button in the upper right-hand corner, and it's going to populate that email for me, and I can manually send it out. So this is a really, really powerful tool where I can automatically be emailing the seller. Now, the other thing that was in this portal, remember, was these action plan items. So I can see all of these items. And some of you know and some of you don't, but in your customer relations tab, you can add follow-up items, right? A new lead comes in, or I've got a contact, I need to talk to them every month. Well, you can also add follow-up items to a listing underneath an actions tab, where maybe you have a very specific marketing plan. Maybe you have a 24-point marketing plan, and you want to create that plan to attach to your listings. Hey, once your home is listed, I'm going to do these 24 things. Once your home is listed, I'm going to do these 7 things. Whatever that list looks like, you can attach to a listing. So I can see here that I've got an action plan of a new listing luxury action plan. We're going to get to how you create those plans in a moment. What I first want to do is just add a follow-up item. Okay, home's been listed for a week. I ran into Rebecca maybe at the grocery store. And so as I'm at the grocery store, Rebecca says, hey, Kelsey, I was looking at my sign and I think I just need another writer or something like that, but I just don't know. It doesn't seem like there's enough out there. I can say, perfect. You know what I'm going to do, Rebecca? I'm going to follow up with you in like 2 or 3 days so that we can discuss your signage. But I want you to make sure, drive by it a couple times. Let me know. I'm going to drive by it to see what it looks like, whatever that conversation is. I need to remember that I need to follow up on that listing, right? So I can go in to the listing. I can add a follow-up item, and I'm going to call this sign follow-up. And maybe the description is sign isn't showing up at night. There are no streetlights in the neighborhood. What is the solution? And I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to research how I can do this. I'm going to follow up with Rebecca on her listing on 5/20. I do all my follow-ups on things at 10:30 in the morning. I click save. And now I've got that pending portion. But what I also want to show you is, you see this section here that says visible to seller? Yes or no? This is where you determine if those items are available to your seller to see in the portal. Here it is. Sign follow-up description. Sign isn't showing at night. No street lights. What is the solution? They can only see that it's pending, complete, or past due. They cannot see the date that you assigned. So you can choose that for individual items. If you don't want something to be visible in the seller portal, please mark this to no. And then when I go back, I'm just going to refresh this a couple times here. It's going to disappear. So that is what that portion is. Now, what about an action plan? Okay, I've got this. That's great, Kelsey. I don't want to go in and add my 24-point marketing plan individually to every listing. That seems silly. You're right. That does seem very silly. Doesn't seem like a good use of my time. Underneath your tools and preferences, there is a section called action plans. And this is where you can go in and you can add a new action plan. And let's call this my new listing mid-market plan, right? It's not a luxury property. It's not an investment style price range. It really is that mid-market. I'm going to apply it to my listings. When I click save, I can then go in and I can build out this plan. Are there automatic system emails? Are there follow-up requests? Are there things that need to be added to the seller needs to be added to a campaign? Do I need to attach the seller to the listing? Do I need to set up my seller reports? What are the items that you need to do to properly market that listing? And are they visible to the seller, yes or no? So for every individual section, you can, or item, you can have it be available to the seller in the portal, yes or no. So again, to build out my action plan, I went to Tools and Preferences, My Action Plans, and I clicked Plus New in the upper right-hand corner. From there, once I'm in and looking at my listing, I can say, awesome. I have an action plan. I need to attach it to my listing. No big deal. I'm going to go in. I'm going to go to my Actions tab, and I'm going to add that. Here I can see all of those things. Maybe I want my 12-point marketing plan. I can see in here the new listing action plan. Here's that new listing mid-market plan. To add one, you just check the box next to it, and you can click Save. Now, all of those items are available. And I can see that. That's a good question. I'm going to come to your question in just a second, Jen. Sorry for my long there. So I can see everything here. Now, some of these items are visible to the seller in the portal, and some of them are not. If I want to go in, I can see each item as visible to the seller. Now, the question, there is a great question in the chat. It says, what if the checklist is just for me to make sure it's complete and it doesn't require a follow-up? Jen, even if it's just for something for you to complete, so the action type is a follow-up item. So, hey, it's reminding you that you need to follow up on that to make sure that it's done. So it does not necessarily need to be a follow-up item. That's just the type. So it's, hey, this is a follow-up request for me. The checklist is make sure Office has complete file. And that's due tomorrow. Does that answer your question, Jen? So the type of item is a follow-up, but it's not necessarily that I'm following up with the seller or with the listing. I'm just following up with myself and my paperwork. Jen, if you can drop a line in that chat box, let me know if that answered. That would help me. The other thing I want to mention on this is, that's great. The seller can see all these, but do I have to actually go into my listings tab, scroll to find the listing, click on it, open it, go to actions tab just to see where it is? No. Where these populate is on your home screen. So I can see opt-in seller to receive seller to reports. Is for a contact. It was assigned based on that. I can mark it as done. It does require you to add notes when you do a follow-up, but this might just be a note of done. I click save and that is done. I'm going to go in just quick and act as the listing agent because this is my account, but there's actually, I have it underneath a different agent for that listing. So you can really see those plans in action. So I can see here, make sure the office has the complete file. Here's the contact, here's the address. I mark it as done. I add a note. Double check office complete file on this date. I click save, and now I'm good to go. So it does require you to add notes. So you mark it as done, add a quick note, and then you're done. Everything on this to-do gauge, you are going to get a text message and or an email reminding you that you need to do it. To set your notification preferences on how you're notified of things in your to-do gauge, you do that in your profile. Here's my profile. Underneath preferences, you've got all of your tasks. So notify tasks by email or by text. Never, always. And you set those, you click save, and that's how you are notified of items in your to-do gauge. Candace, do you mean an actual team or do you mean office staff? So when you're doing working on a listing action plan and adding those items, the few things that you can do is really between agent and co-listing agent. So when I add an action, there's an option here of assign to, and you can assign it to the listing agent or the second listing agent. So they would have to co-list those items. So it depends a little bit on your team structure. What you can do is in that tools and preferences, there is a sharing, and you can share your listings between the team members so that any of the team members can actually view those listings here. That's a great question. Does that answer your question, Candace? So yes, you can assign them between co-listing and listing. So if I had a team member of 2 people or really 2 people who were working this, I would just put in that second co-listing agent. And then I could assign items to that co-listing agent or to the actual agent. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. So the other tools that are available to you, so we talked about reporting, we talked about the actions, we also talked about the attaching the seller so that the portal is viewable. And the last thing I want to really talk about is the showings. So within the office account, I know that some of you on this call are using the showing portion of the software and some of you are not. know that you all have access to a showing link. So I can actually have a showing link for MLS to put in the MLS so that outside agents can log in and request showings. I also have a showings tab where I can track all of my showings. Here I can choose, hey, the seller is going to confirm. I do want the seller to be notified. I want to be notified. The instructions for the buyer's agent, the directions for the buyer agent, the internal notes. And then I can say, all right, I would like to add a new showing. Okay, I've got Jordan who is showing this, and he's going to show it on Saturday between 4 and 5. It's confirmed. He's previewing it for his client. I click save. The seller gets a text message and an email notification based on how I set up those confirmations. And the listing agent gets notified. Also, the buyer's agent receives an email and a text message from the system confirming. So for those of you that don't have a way to track your showings, there is a great showings opportunity here. Sonal asked a great question. Can some of this all work for 4 lease listings? Yes, absolutely it can. Jennifer, I'm going to have you just reach out to Aaron or Ryan directly, because we've got a lot of people from other companies on this call too. Awesome. So there are a lot of tools within the system. It all starts by adding your seller into my contacts and leads, right? I go in, I add my seller here. I've got this new, I add them in. I can attach them to the listings underneath the listings tab. Here's the information. I also can manage my actual listing. So I'm going into my actual listings. I've attached my seller. Awesome. I'm going to go in. I can easily add follow-up items. I can create my own action plans and attach those. I can manage my showings. I can also set up reports so that my seller is getting notified of what I'm doing and what traffic I'm driving to their listing. All of this information is also available underneath that seller portal. Now, what if I want an action plan? Okay, I've gone in, I've created my 24-step marketing plan underneath tools and preferences, my action plans. What if I want that to automatically attach to every listing that comes into the system? Is it possible for me to add that to every listing in the system that comes in that I take? The answer to that is yes. And again, to do that, I'm going to go into my account. I'm going to go to my profile, and I'm going to go to preferences. About halfway down this page, there's a section that says default action plans. And you'll see that there's a just listed and a just reduced action plan. I can actually search for my action plan here. I can say, hey, I would like to add my new listing action plan. And now for every listing that comes into the software, every listing I take that I put into MLS, this action plan is going to automatically populate so that I can know that whenever I have a new listing on my home screen, the items that I need to do for every listing are automatically assigned to me, and I'm really just logging in and working my plan, I'm not going in to do all that. Now, to set this up, you're going to start by creating your action plans first, and then you can attach them to your profile so that they auto attach. Then everything that comes in is going to auto attach. So that, I told you we'd be in between 30 and 40 minutes. Today we're right at 35 minutes. I do want to make sure that if you have any questions, we have some time here where I can answer your questions. Again, this is being recorded. You will get a copy of this recording. Are there any questions for me? Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Just a reminder, as you're looking for where we begin and what's going on, this Back At You, showtime.backatyou.com has all of our upcoming trainings. And you can easily see those here. Alicia, that's a great question. Is there anywhere that has a suggested action plan? So on our Facebook page, in our Facebook group, there are documents. So if you go in and you go into the Documents tab in our group, so Files, there are some active seller campaigns. There's some sample listing action plans. There's some examples of that here. So that you don't have to start from scratch. Great question. Any other questions that I can answer for you all? If not, then I want to tell you all, I hope you all have a very successful Monday. I hope things are going very well for you. I know some of you are in states that are reopening and some of you are in states that are not. So I want to encourage you to continue to work on your business plan and setting yourself up for success. We will be having more and more classes. Know that for the holiday weekend that is upcoming, we will not have a session. But we will resume right on June 1st, and I'm looking forward to having you all. Thank you so much and have a fabulous day.